I'm John Wilker, the organizer of 360 IDEV. I hope you enjoy this session recording, but first I wanted to mention one thing. We've served the community since 2009, and over the past few years we've had to take on debt in an effort to keep the conference alive. After several unforeseen challenges, not the least of which is a pandemic of indefinite duration, we've had to make the hard choice to end the conference as we're now facing over $100,000 in debt. As a result of requests from the community of how they can help, we've created a GoFundMe campaign. If you're inclined and able, please consider donating to help keep 360 IDEV going. The QR code after this will link you to the campaign. Thank you. Enjoy the recording.
Well, he gets applause. Yo, let's make the recording really, really good and do like a better applause, all right? 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone. Welcome to your first and a half session of Wednesday at 360 IDEV. My name is Zach Brass, and you, yes, you, should mentor that person. So, a little bit about who I am. I'm Zach Brass. I moved to New York City about 2 days after 360 IDEV last year. I've been doing iOS professionally for about 11 years at all different types of companies. I have the world's best cat. Her name is Marley, and I implore you to look at her face. She has a very good face. Fun fact, this month I competed in my first pun competition. Also, I'm a mentor. I wouldn't be giving this talk if I weren't. I mentor engineers at my company who I am not here representing today, so I'm putting up this disclaimer. I also mentor for Underdog Devs, which is an organization that helps formerly incarcerated and other disadvantaged people get their first job in software. They are pretty much always looking for mentors and mentees, so please, 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 if you get nothing else out of this talk, please go look them up on Twitter. They are amazing. Also, I am a swing dancer and blues dancer, and I've been teaching dance for the better part of a decade. So I've been a mentor both in software engineering and out of software engineering. So, a little bit of a story. I actually didn't know how to start this presentation. I had an absolute blast speaking at last year's conference, and so when the organizers opened up the talk proposals for this year's conference, I submitted my abstract for this talk, and obviously I'm here, so it got accepted. And I knew all the individual things I wanted to talk about, but July rolled around, and like many of the speakers here, I got this sudden sense of, oh shit, now I gotta make it real. I stared at my whiteboard with all the things that I wanted to say, just trying to figure out how to start this talk, and I just couldn't figure it out. It just wasn't happening. And so a couple days later, I ended up on YouTube, and it suggests a video of Mr. Rogers. And for those of you who didn't grow up in America, Mr. Rogers hosted a beloved children's TV show that left a lifelong, lasting impression on multiple generations. And it taught kids to be kind and curious and to be open about their feelings. And he himself affected major changes in childhood education. Well, one thing led to another, and I found this video of Mr. Rogers receiving a Lifetime Emmy, and it gave me an idea. When he got up on stage, he said, so many people have helped me to come to this night. And then he asked everyone to take 10 seconds to think of someone who helped them become who they are. And so that's what I'd like to do here. I'd like everyone in this room to take 10 seconds to think of someone who helped them become who they are, or the engineer that they are today. Just 10 seconds of silence. I'll watch the time. When those 10 seconds were done, he concluded with, whomever you've been thinking about, how pleased they must be to know the difference you feel they've made. We're often unaware of what help or luck that we've had throughout our life, throughout our career, and it's nice to think about that, but more importantly, it's important to recognize just how crucial mentorship is to the world of software engineering. In the words of Mr. Rogers, look for the helpers. The world needs more mentors, and I want you, yes you, to be one. The world's a very different place than when we started software engineering. It is much harder. So if you're at this talk or listening at home, you've probably been a software engineer for a while. Just in terms of pure domain knowledge, the bar is so much higher. Like, hello world for iOS devs is different. 10 years ago, remember when iOS apps looked like this? 10 years ago, if you could pull JSON from a server and pop it in a few UI table views, that was enough to publish to the App Store. In 2022, that is table stakes. A couple years ago, I got an interview take-home assignment, just an interview take-home assignment that involved table view pagination, dynamically sized UI table view cells with text above images loaded asynchronously. Oh, and it'll only take you a couple hours, right? Get back to me by Friday. Also, I don't know if you've been paying attention the last 2.5 years, but there's been a global pandemic. What have people lost in that time? What have people been deprived of? Some people were robbed of a significant portion of their college experience, and they need mentorship. Some people had to enter their first job in the middle of this, and they need mentorship. Some people just didn't get out for a while, and maybe their interpersonal skills are a little bit rusty, and they need mentorship too. On a more encouraging note, many people over the pandemic have decided on their own to learn how to code and find freedom through software engineering, and they're either looking for their first role or they just got it. And they definitely need mentorship too. This is Jess. She is awesome. She was an early Underdog Devs mentee, not mine, unfortunately, but she learned how to code over the pandemic and got her first job, and now she's like double promoted in her first year as a software engineer. It was awesome. So fundamentally, what does it mean to be a mentor? Being a mentor means guiding someone in their journey. It's not just putting information out there. It's more personal than that. You actually care about them. You have a stake in their development, and you're a resource for someone's development to make what they want achievable. This is something that I took from the dance world. Whenever I teach, whether it's a beginner lesson or an all levels or a more intermediate advanced class, whenever I teach, I'm not trying to establish dominance in my class. I'm actually trying to do the opposite. I'm trying to close that gap, whether it's skill or perceived power or actual power. And it's the same thing with software mentorship. The world outside of tech tends to pedestal engineers. I'm sure this sounds very, very familiar to you. Oh my God, you're an engineer, you must be so smart. When in reality, all we got is depth in some domain-specific knowledge. And to be honest, the tech world doesn't help much either, right? Oh my gosh, person XYZ is a top contributor to the Swift compiler or something that we've all heard of, right? Or like every tech recruiter email ever. Oh my God, I'm looking for a rock star, a ninja, a pirate, when all we want to be treated like is a whole ass person who cried during the Pokemon movie. Just like all of you, you all did it. I know you did. I see your faces. I want to turn my mentee into a colleague as much as humanly possible, because it's not a pedestal, it's a staircase. You may have started at different places, you may be at different places, you probably are, but you're bringing someone up to your stair so you can climb together, or even give someone a boost above you. But let's talk about why mentorship is awesome. What do you want to see in the next crop of engineers? What changes do you want to see in the engineering world? Maybe you look around and you see too many people who look like you, or you don't see enough people who look like you. Maybe you wish people cared about a certain domain, like localization or like how your app actually gets built. Maybe you wish people understood that social skills and kindness shouldn't be optional as skills for software engineers. In helping grow the next crop of engineers, you get to help impart values as they grow. Some people really like paying it forward. They're like, oh, I've been helped, now I want to help. And some people help with their money, and some people help with their time and effort. You as a mentor get a captive audience. From what I understand, not everyone enjoys public speaking like I do. And mentorship is a fantastic way to have people care about what you have to say without, I don't know, getting in front of a large audience and doing a talk that's going to be recorded and put on the internet for a really long time. Some people just like a good challenge, and one that's different from most of our normal responsibilities as engineers, especially if we're individual contributors. It is the most magical thing to be part of the reason someone else succeeds. And this is not just, oh, sweet, I helped them fix a bug, but something more large scale. And I'm not going to lie to you, this was the last slide that I worked on. Not because it's the thing I think is least important, but because on an emotional level, this is the thing that speaks to me the most. And I was having trouble capturing that feeling and putting it into words. That feeling that made me almost call out of work when one of my mentees got her first job as an iOS dev, because I was so friggin' excited that I physically could not sit still. I had to do laps around the block just to calm down because I was so excited. That feeling when someone I worked with on his dancing was killing it in front of a crowd, and I cheered so loud that I literally lost my voice. Y'all, mentorship is the friggin' best. But I want to talk about some misconceptions about mentoring. What mentoring isn't, or at least shouldn't be. First, don't do it because you have to. Like, don't begrudgingly do it because I told you to in this talk. This talk is to motivate you to want to do it. Think of the difference in connotation between, I saw this conference talk that said I had to mentor someone, and I guess I got to do it. And the difference between that and I saw this conference talk about mentorship, and I got super excited to mentor someone. Do it because it's awesome. This goes back to caring about people. Make it about your mentee, because it's not about you. Make it about your mentee, specifically their journey. You may have individual skills that you'll work with your mentee on, where you'll say, oh, it's important that you know this. And that's perfectly fine, but like on a macro scale, your hopes, your dreams, your aspirations, and your goals might be different from those of your mentee. And make sure you're working with them to achieve their goals and lead them down the path that they want to go down. For example, I have a mentee that I'm working with right now that is an incredibly talented engineer, and he got an offer for a 6-month contract to TA a Java course that doesn't pay him what I know he's worth. But his parents are gig economy workers, and he's the first person in his family to go to college, and he needs to help support his family. So I have to support his priorities of enabling him to start helping his family sooner. And then while he's in that contract, work with him to get a job that values him for his worth. Also, side note, if anyone's looking to hire a junior engineer that is fantastic with iOS, please come talk to me afterwards. Wink, wink. You're not on call to do someone's homework for them. And you're not their only source of income. Like, I promise you, your responsibility is not to be Jake from State Farm, or not Jake from State Farm, Jake from Stack Overflow. Your mentee should put more work into learning than you do into guiding them. If your mentee comes to you with a problem and they say something like, well, I'm trying to do X, Y, Z, and I was thinking about implementing it in this way, that's great. That shows that they've put in effort. If they're trying to solve a problem and have started to help themselves, that's such a great sign. You're training them to help themselves. That is one of the markers that separates a junior engineer from a more experienced engineer. Always reward and validate your mentees for taking a stab at the problem and recognize when they're getting good at it. It's not always about the coding. Software engineering, job searching, this is a mental game way more than we give it credit for. Just quick poll of the audience. What do you think is the number one skill that I work with? Work on with my mentees. Got through it. What do you think? It's confidence. It's not coding. Getting in the right mindset. Yeah. You want to create an environment of vulnerability. It starts with this, growing their confidence. Going back to being a whole-ass person, you want to create an environment where they feel safe sharing their fears and their insecurities. Like, we're supposed to be strong, right? That's like the industry says, we're supposed to be strong. We're not supposed to not reveal our hand. But we work in an environment of things not being ideal or perfect, and your mentee, going back to not pedestaling, needs to know that you're not perfect too. Chances are there's going to be something in your mentee's career that's going to make them feel like shit. And they might feel like they're the only ones that this has happened to, or they're the only one that's let it affect them that much. Even if you don't offer any advice on this, don't underestimate just being a willing ear that knows what's up, that's gone through this, and that understands. Engineering school does not prep you for getting your heart broken by a role that you're perfect for, but just have one bad day and you flub the interview. All that leak code grinding, right, if you're into that, won't prep you for the fact that sometimes people are mean to you in your code reviews. Tell your mentees your stories of frustration, of failure, of when something in your career made you want to cry or want to quit or just want to rip your hair out. Like, it's important to go to therapy. It is very important to go to therapy, but your therapist does not know how to code in Swift. If anyone's therapist knows how to code in Swift, please talk to me afterwards. But it's important to have someone who knows your domain that you can talk to. Because the knowledge that, not just that they're not the only person, but not the only engineer having these thoughts, these insecurities, these experiences is very important. But it's not just talking about the bad stuff or the stuff that needs improvement. Your mentee won't be able to see their progress like you will. Sometimes it's hard for us to know that we're improving because we're always in it, taking continuous samples of our progress. And it's sometimes easier for someone else to see progress because they're taking discrete samples, and it's so much easier to compare. And it's important as a mentor to recognize not just where your mentee can improve, but the improvements someone has made, because that helps grow their confidence. So I had a mentee in early 2021, and before she got her first iOS job offer, was like, Zach, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I'm gonna be a good iOS engineer. And shortly after she got her first role, and I couldn't sit still and did laps around the block. And I had a meeting with her last month, not even 2 years into her career, and she was like, oh man, my company's giving me a week to learn, just dedicate to learning. And I think I'm gonna learn Combine and BigQuery in under 2 years of being an iOS dev. Fantastic. If you make someone believe in themselves, they will go through hell for you. Whether it's putting in the effort into the mentorship, or maybe somewhere down the line, you need help from them. Now, you might find this pretty intimidating. Like, let's acknowledge the fact that you might be thinking, oh my God, what if I'm not ready? What does that sound like? Sounds like imposter syndrome, right? Our old friend. For those of us with imposter syndrome, you know it does not go away with experience or seniority, right? But do you know who also has imposter syndrome? Your mentee. And who do you think has worse imposter syndrome? Believe me, I get it. It took me more than a month to get more than just my intro slide down. But I promise you, you are more ready than you think you are. Here's something I bet you didn't expect in the talk about mentorship. We're gonna do a live demo, but not with code, with another human being. Can I get a volunteer that I haven't told about this activity, who isn't gonna be embarrassed just being on stage? You're not gonna have to do anything like crazy good. Ben Pruthi. All right, come on up, Ben. Everybody give a hand to Ben. All right. Here, I'm gonna have you here. Ben, no, stand over here. Stand over here, right? Here, I want you to, just face the audience real quick. Face the audience. Just face the audience, it's okay. Okay, so actually, you know what? I wanna have you stand over here. Come over here, awesome, cool. Okay, and so when I tell you to, I want you to walk over there, all right? Now, keep in mind, this is getting recorded. This is the only demo that I'm doing in this talk. I am a dance teacher. I have been teaching dance for the better part of a decade, okay? All right, I need you to not mess this up, okay? Okay, walk over there. Yep, walk over there. Awesome. Thanks so much. Everybody give him a hand. Okay. How'd that make you feel? Did you feel nervous? Did you feel weird about walking? Like, it's a little awkward, right? Walking's a thing you've been doing for most of your life, and normally you don't even think about it. But somehow you feel weird about it in that moment, and you're like, wait, what's wrong with my walking? Did you notice that I actually had you walk the same distance when I said, oh, wait, no, wait, stand over here? And you walked over there, no problem, much less nervous. This, folks, is a scale model of imposter syndrome. Thanks so much, Ben. You're awesome. Everybody give Ben a hand. Folks, that is the adoptive son of the entire iOS developer community. This is another idea that I got from dance class. If I tell someone to walk over there, they do it. But if I do it in a dance class, they instantly forget how to walk. This is the same thing with mentorship. Suddenly your brain is like, oh no, the stakes are so high now. What is engineering? And what's cool with that exercise is that just like mentorship, a thing that you did, Ben, a thing that you did that took very little effort helped me a disproportionately large amount and truly was a very important part of my talk. You're more ready than you think you are, folks. I got my first mentees when I was like 24 or 25, and at work they were like, well, we got some interns who want to work on iOS. Zach, you've got the demeanor of a well-trained golden retriever. Go mentor them. And I was like, well, I guess I can't argue with that. And as I gave it my best shot, I quickly learned a lot of the stuff that I took for granted as basic domain knowledge wasn't as basic as I thought it was. I'll bet right now, everybody in the room and everyone watching at home, there's something in each and every one of your heads that would blow the minds of half the people in this room. And as you mentor someone, you'll begin to realize just how valuable you are too, and start chipping away at your own imposter syndrome. And this happens at every level, especially as you start to specialize. And as a matter of fact, it actually happened last year, at last year's 360 iDev to me. I gave a talk called Localization for Begintermediates, and I asked Josh Holtz, who is the lead maintainer of Fastlane. Y'all know about Fastlane, right? I asked Josh Holtz if he could go over my talk with me a couple days before and give me feedback on how it was just as a conference talk. And at the end, he was like, wow, I learned so much. And I was flabbergasted. It didn't occur to me that I had something valuable to share with someone at his level. Like, he's the lead maintainer of Fastlane. We all know what Fastlane is. Even if we haven't used it, we know what it is. Now you might say, okay, my knowledge is valuable, but like, what if I get something wrong? This is not a reassuring answer, but you probably won't. But hypothetically, if you did give bad advice, and again, you probably won't, this is just one thing in a sea of good advice. Mistakes are correctable. You've made mistakes in your career, right? You're not perfect. And you're not your mentee's only source of knowledge. And sometimes you might not have all the answers. Knowing your limits, knowing where they are is totally fine. And it's great to model this for your mentees. Okay, but how do you even get started with mentorship? Like, where do I find one? Bunch of places. You can look online. iOS developer Twitter is best Twitter. There are a bunch of new devs and aspiring devs that are looking for help. They're tweeting out their experiences. You can even find entire orgs to mentor for on Twitter. That's how I found Underdog Devs. Also, do a quick Google for iOS mentorship, whatever you want to, constrain that to. Find orgs online. If you want to do something in person, go look for orgs locally. I guarantee you, if you live near a city, do a quick Google and there'll be organizations that you can mentor for. Or go to iOS dev meetups. I'll bet there are some people that need mentorship and really, really want it. Also, you can find them at your company. This one's a little bit different. And though you want to create a space of vulnerability, you also have to be careful to respect people's boundaries around opening up at work. And also, if you end up being involved in your mentee's performance reviews, do not make them regret opening up to you. Remember that walking exercise? I had Ben do the same thing under different circumstances. It's just that I changed the perceived stakes. You may already be mentoring someone and just not calling it mentoring. Ooh, right? Scary. Is there a dev that always comes to you for help? Maybe a dev that always shares their excitement with you, or one that vents to you? Surprise. You might be a mentor and just not know it yet. Wobbly podium. Also, when you first start mentoring, you don't need to dive in head first. Like, even when you've been doing it for a while, it doesn't have to be a full-time job. Some people want to help where they can, but they also have important things in their life other than mentorship. Like right now, I have a mentee at work, and his desk is near mine, but my primary job is to be an individual contributor. I also have another mentee outside of work through Underdog Devs, and we meet over Zoom every week or so, and in between, we chat asynchronously through Slack. But I also have other hobbies too. If you're worried about balance, it is okay to start small and work your way up. Maybe you just start volunteering for an org to do interview preps a couple hours a month. Or if you have a big Twitter following, hold office hours. Just be like, all right, I'm gonna be on this Zoom call for like an hour, like at this time, and make it work for you. Also, not every mentor-mentee pair is perfect, and that's okay. But when you get the right fit, it is amazing, and it'll make you want to go to bat for them. So, as we come to a close, the engineering world can get pretty lonely. And it often turns people into selfish assholes who only go into business for themselves. And that doesn't feel so great. But, and it was on the 360 iDev shirts last year, the best part of the iOS dev community specifically is the community part. And we can make it even more awesome by mentoring others. The world of engineering in general is far from perfect. And there's ways that we want to change it. And through mentorship, we can set the precedent for what we want to see. And you, yes, you, are ready for it. You're going to do great. I'm not the only speaker this weekend who's touched on this. How do you want to be remembered? Oh, they were a talented engineer. Or, oh man, I will never forget how this person helped me become who I am. I promise you, it is the greatest feeling in the world. Corporations are not people. And your company, as much as their internal comms department will tell you, your company will not love you back. But people will. We don't always live on through our work, but we will always live on through the people we help. I want you to think back to the beginning of this talk. I want you to think again about the person you thought of, and think not just about how they helped you, but also how they made you feel. And go give that to someone. Thanks so much. Okay, if you've got questions and you're watching at home, pop them in the Slack and someone will read them out loud. I'm just going to give a little bit of a buffer time. I want to give a shout out to Dave DeLong, who's been a mentor to me since I was a baby iOS developer, and my dance mentor, Julie Brown, who did not know she was going to be in this slide. I want to give a shout out to two of my dance partners, Gwen and Gab, who are not iOS developers, but who helped me get my thoughts together in the early stages of this talk. Julie Bone and Jill Scott helped me get my thoughts together in the later stages of this talk. I want to give a shout out to Rick Walter, the guy who started Underdog Devs and has enabled me to mentor there. He couldn't be here this weekend. He had to cancel his plans to be at this conference last minute. But please, if you're watching this, Rick, please know that we're thinking of you and Amanda, and we love you. And lastly, the 360 iDev staff. I had a bit written down for this, but given that this conference isn't happening next year, as we just found out, I want to say a little bit about being an organizer. I had planned to be an organizer of a dance event in 2020, and we had to cancel it 2 months before it happened. And the amount of unappreciated effort that goes on behind the scenes to run an event, on the scale that I was trying to do was small potatoes, and this is just such a massive team effort. If you see someone that is on staff this weekend for the rest of the day, please thank them. Please be awesome to them. Please tell them what an incredible environment that they have created. And just on a personal note, they were the first people to give me an opportunity to speak, and it is really powerful, just someone giving you a chance and believing in you, whether it's being a mentor or being a conference organizer. And now I'll take questions. None? Yeah. Hit me. What's? If I was in what area?
I was wondering if you were in the Boston area.
I was in the Boston area. I just moved to New York about a year ago. Yeah. Any questions on the Slack? Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, everybody.